mini-series now as we continue to open the books. OpenTheBooks.com is the website. Your goal is to have this be the case for every major city and every state in the country, to have every public dollar spent be apparent online. It makes total sense.
So right now we've got 4 billion individually captured government transactions at the federal, state, and local levels across the country. In order to get this, Steve, our team files about 100,000 Freedom of Information Act open records requests every single year.
This is actual transparency, not political transparency. This is actual transparency, and that'd be the difference.
And in the era of fake news, I think it's highly critical. Journalism needs to get back to hard data. Citizens on the Bernie Sanders center left and the Donald Trump center right, they're rightfully angry because they know something is fundamentally wrong, and we show them exactly what is wrong with the spending of their tax dollar.
And for those folks who may be a little bit confused, when you say the era of fake news, you mean the actual fake news, not the actual journalists that are trying to report real news in their windows.
That's right.
Patronage. Patronage is something that old Mayor Daley was very good at, and he taught everybody, right down to Mike Madigan, the last proprietor of the great patronage machine, the way it used to be done, on how to do it. Patronage is easy enough to explain, and that you do something for me, I want to maintain my power base, I'm going to make sure you're okay down the road, I'm going to give you a big job, I'm going to make sure you get the overtime, whatever the case may be. Your point, if I understand it correctly, at Open the Books, is that Mayor Emanuel has continued to do this. What's he getting out of it?
Well, there's a couple different ways that he's running patronage. The first way, and I covered this 2 years ago when he was running for re-election, is that he has from 600 city vendors, he's taken $7 million worth of campaign cash. But those city vendors, since Mayor Daley and Rahm Emanuel over the course of a 12-year period, they took $2 billion in city payments. And I wrote about this at Forbes in a piece called The Moral Bankruptcy of the Chicago Elite. What we exposed today at Forbes in the piece, Can Rahm Emanuel Run Chicago, is the fact that there are nearly 11,000 six-figure salaries now in the city of Chicago. Without the $300 million of overtime, there would only be 5,000 six-figure salaries. The number of six-figure payments doubles with the overtime, and this is how Rahm Emanuel, from the grassroots on up, is keeping the city workforce very happy by lining their wallets with a little bit of extra cash.
Reading this as a city resident, just stepping back and being a taxpayer in the city of Chicago, and reading this, I could possibly look past some of the overtime issues because I want to be safe. I want the police and fire out there. What struck me very much so is the fact that the tree trimmers are making $160,000 a year, and nothing against the aviation commissioner or that position, but to make over $400,000 a year, and that's almost tripling what the salary was when the previous director was in.
That's right. So we found that Ginger Evans is the commissioner of aviation in the city. She's the most highly compensated city employee, and she made, like you said, $400,000 last year, and she double-dipped the system. Her predecessor, Rosemarie Androlino, made only $184,000 and no bonus. The new commissioner, Evans, she made $300,000 with a $100,000 bonus.
Market value is a term that should come into play with these jobs. Are we close to any market value on what these folks actually should be paid?
Why?
I mean, compare it to L.A., compare it to New York.
Look, you got tree trimmers for $109,000, plumbers for $160,000, auto pound supervisors for $145,000. I don't think there's any market value here. And these type of things need to be squeezed out. Look, when Rahm Emanuel won for mayor in 2011, he promised a forensic audit, an aggressive audit to squeeze out waste, fraud, corruption, and abuse, to make sure that there was effective resource management within the departments. And what our audit of his payroll shows that this was never going to happen. Real reform was never going to happen.
Have you seen any
He's codified his political power.
Have you seen any improvements since he took office?
Well, going back and looking at history, so Rahm Emanuel about a year ago promised 1,000 new police officers on the street.
Great idea.
But he had cut over the course of his first 5 years 1,000 police officers from the street. So no, I don't see any improvement at all.
Is there a way to do this and still manage a city the size of Chicago, or would the argument be because you're Rahm Emanuel and you're in the position you're in, this is an ongoing process? I'm not going to say it's perfect. I've got to keep working on it.
Well, I think that
in other words,
there's plenty of money being spent.
And I've got to spend it. appropriately, but there's only so many hours in the day, and I'm trying to fix it.
So Rahm Emanuel, he's obviously the smartest person in the room. In terms of government, he's got it, he touts his management credentials every time at re-election. He's had 6 years in the position. The fact that this gross mismanagement of resources is still going on, I mean, this falls right, the mayor owns this issue. He owns nearly $300 million worth of overtime.
Could any of these jobs eventually not be political hires, like aviation commissioner, streets and sand, water department? Could any of those just be regular jobs where you go in and apply and the mayor or city doesn't pick?
Well, I think that the powers that be, the political powers that be, they like to have the picks. And when it comes time for re-election, they own those picks. They own that compensation, and we, the people, can hold them accountable at the ballot box for their tax and spend decisions.
There is similar problems, obviously, at the state level, and there's similar problems around the country, but based on what you know about the ongoing work you're doing at openthebooks.com, how bad off are we?
So we're so bad off that at the fire department, the overtime is not extending in. You know, you'd think that you'd have rank and file firefighters that are making a lot of money. And our data shows you actually don't. The top firefighter made a lot of money, $129,000, but out of all the city firefighters, Christopher Zahn had a base salary of $90,000, $39,000 of overtime. But here's the thing.
I can live with that.
13 police chiefs out-earned the fire commander. And the police chiefs the fire chiefs, 13 fire chiefs out-earned the commissioner, Jose Santiago. Now, Santiago made $202,000. The 13 chiefs, they were knocking down overtime of up to 6 figures.
Was this, I know we're way long here, but was this some way during the second Mayor Daley's administration, maybe that it got ingrained, that we're never going to be able to make base salaries work, so overtime became the way to pay people?
Well, and I fundamentally disagree with that because I come from the private sector.
Right, but I'm asking,
and the private sector, these things would never be going on.
Never should they?
Right.
But I'm asking, is that the ingrained poison that's in there? Is that part of the problem?
Well, with Rahm Emanuel, he's the mayor. The buck stops with him.
Right.
He promised the efficient delivery of city services. And you can't efficiently deliver city services when things are this out of control.
First thing to fix it is what? Because of my concern.
Look, in Illinois at all levels, we need serious people. I mean, in Chicago, the pension systems are nearly insolvent, and the state of Illinois, they're taxing everything. They're taxing plastic bags for crying out loud.
Right.
You know, the Cubs, Sox, and concerts tickets. So, you know, the people, rightfully, are upset, and it's becoming expensive to live here. Think about this. Since 1950, have fled the city for prosperity elsewhere. And just last year, Chicago led the nation among the large cities with 20,000 people fleeing the city of Chicago.
Here's my only concern going forward, because we need more light shined on this, and that's why I salute what you guys do, and that's why you're always going to be
Thank you very much, Steve.
Again, it's openthebooks.com, and also at Every Dime Online for social media. But this is a big city with a lot of issues, and I maintain if you don't have a tough mayor to control the aldermen, we'll be Detroit within 15 minutes. So the idea of voting out Rahm to bring somebody in, I'd like to know who the next alternative is. I mean, I'm not trying to excuse anything that you're discussing here, because I believe everything you've written, and I'm your fan, you know that. But I don't want people to go, well, look, we got to make a change, because I think we've seen how that worked in the White House. We don't need just a populist who's going to say political things. We need somebody who's willing to get into government for the right reasons, be paid what they're worth, and clean the system up. And I don't know who that individual is.
So at openthebooks.com, we're a public charity, so we don't engage in politics, but we do shine that light, and we strongly believe that putting out these fact patterns will help good people rise to the top. And in the absence of that, the people need to hold Rahm Emanuel accountable, and maybe he'll start making better management decisions.
Do the job better than you're doing
exactly.
it now. Nice to see it. Where can people see the Forbes piece today?
If you Google Rahm Emanuel, it'll come right up. Rahm Emanuel, Forbes. You can also come to openthebooks.com, where obviously the mayor is suing the president on sanctuary cities. We have a report on our website, on our homepage, in the report section on sanctuary cities that was covered on CNN and NBC, on the national platforms. Chicago got $5.3 billion from the federal government last year. And so there's a lot of money at stake on sanctuary cities.
Yeah, and where's de Blasio and Garcetti to stand next to him at the press conference? That'd be my concern, too, if I were wrong. Nice to see you.
Thank you, Steve.
Come
Thanks
back
for having
anytime.
me in the studio. This has been great.
Again, it's Adam Andrzejewski, openthebooks.com. We'll take a quick break, come back with a big story next.